Hello. Super exciting. I've just come back from a friend's garden. Sylvia, thank you so much for allowing me to come and photograph your beautiful flowers. What a treat. So this time of year, we have a number of different flowers in bloom in my particular area, tulips being one of them. And Sylvia's garden was filled with beautiful, beautiful tulips of all different colors and shapes and sizes. So it was a real treat to go and photograph some tulips at her place. And what happens from here is I don't know how many photos I took at her house, but a number of photos. And the way that I take my photos, I leave a fair bit of room around the flowers so that I can do cropping when I come back to the studio. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to just walk through a little bit of my process of how I make decisions about how to crop an image, what I find pleasing, how I feel my way through to what I feel like the painting needs to be. So let me share my screen and I will show you what I've got here. All right, there we go. Now I'll make this full screen. There we go. All right, so what we have are 4 beautiful tulips here. Now, these tulips have got a lovely bit of sunshine coming through, so you get those lovely reflections. What I don't particularly like about the way that I shot this image, and it's not that I don't like it, it's a great image, but what I most want to do is I want to eliminate some of the extraneous ground detail because that doesn't really add anything to the image. And let me just see if I have tools here. I do. Let me see if I've got a cropping tool. And we'll go through. Let me move this little thing out of the way. I'm not sure if I have a cropping tool here. I should have one. Oh, there we are, right there. Okay. So in the cropping process, and I'll move my little window. I don't think you can see my little window, but my little window is getting in the way. Okay, so let's get down to it. What I want to do is eliminate some of this background area and this lower area, which is already telling me this canvas wants to be, or this painting wants to be a narrow, fairly long, narrow painting, which could be really, really exciting. So let's just fool around here a little bit. And my first thought is to go something like so. And then maybe leave a little bit more there, something like so. Wow, see, that already feels a little bit more interesting. Now, the only piece of this that I'm not happy with is this kind of cage over here. I think there was a peony bush that's over in this corner. So I'm not sure. Let's just pull this in to eliminate that. And maybe slide this up. See how you can just fool around a little bit? You know what I think? I think I might, yeah, I don't like that as much. That doesn't feel as good. So I am going to take this back out. I think it will correct. Yeah, there it will. It'll correct. Okay, so then let's bring this edge over too. And maybe like so. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, I like that. I like what's going on there. So let me just show you why I moved that. So when I had it down here, it felt like it was too heavy to the bottom edge. There was some details that needed to be in the painting. And again, I don't want all this stuff up in here. So I've got a couple choices. I could crop that way down. Let's see what that looks like. It's good, but it doesn't feel right. It doesn't, I don't know, there's something about it. So I am going to pull this down. I think this bright area over here is kind of necessary. It feels like that needs to be there. And then you have this beautiful arc coming up to these other petals. And I'm just gonna pull that in a little bit. Notice that. Oh, that feels good. There's a bit of tension here. Can you feel that? There's a little bit of tension. I like that. And this green is repeated up here. So there's a really nice flow across that canvas, that painting. And what I'll do is I'll paint this rock in. It'll be kind of a little bit faded because it's out of focus, right? And in this area here, I'll put more foliage, much like we have here, maybe not as bright, because there is a little bit of light in there, but not much. But I won't paint this cage in. I'll just avoid that cage. And this little flower here doesn't really add much either, so I think I will eliminate that. But this is really what's drawing the attention. Now, I wonder if I could tip this a little bit. Let's just see if I tip it. Oh, this is looking interesting. Okay, let's expand this a little tiny bit. Let's expand. Oh, I think I'm expanded as much as I can that way. Okay, now let's go up here. Okay, and let's see if we can tip it just a little tiny bit more. I think we lose a bit of detail if we tip it too far. Yeah, I don't find that's interesting. I like the details in the background are better because there's a few of the details that are now missing that I don't really need to have there. But I'm not liking the fact that this little bit is missing. So I wonder if I don't think I can expand it this way anymore. No, because I've tipped it, I can't expand out that way. There is more information in the painting or in the image that's going off canvas a little bit. So I can do that when I actually, compose the painting here. Let me see, can I shrink that in? I can't shrink that in anymore. All right, let's see how that, oh, that's kind of interesting. I think what's happened here is this flower then becomes like really, like you really get a sense of the space here. That tipping it has really helped. But in the actual painting, I think what I'll do is I'll make sure that I include the little details at either end, because I can obviously do that in the painting. I'm not able to do it here in the screenshot business. So I can work on that once it's in the canvas. But I like what's going on here. I like the shape. I think this is a better composition than the first one that I was working with. I do like the light greens coming in here that are also reflected here. So that's nice. I've got some leading lines here. I won't put the little tag in the image. I won't use that. And you've got a sense of the rock. There's a few details that really ground the flowers into the space. Like you could understand the space of where these flowers were photographed. So let's just quickly go back to the original and see, there we are. There's the original, right? So just by manipulating some of the spaces, you can create a really interesting composition. So let's rotate this the other way and see if we can push. Let's pull this out. Will this one go out a little bit? Probably not. Okay. This photo editing system isn't giving me all the freedom that I would like, but you can get the idea here of what's happening. I think that could probably go further out. Yeah, there's a little bit more. Now I have both of these petals in, which I really wanted. Now let's bring the top down because we don't need all that. Okay, that's looking really interesting. Ooh, I like that. Yeah, I like that a lot. So do you see that there's many, many ways that we can work with a photo. Now I'm going to leave this one. I'm just going to click done. I can always go back and revert back to the original with this particular photo. So let me pull up a different photo. I think, which one was it? I think it's this one. Maybe not. Okay, let me go to these are some other flowers that I took on my way to Sylvia's, another garden I drove by that had these beautiful flowers. Okay, so there's something interesting that's happening with this particular composition. There's a few things that we can do with it. Now, I'm going to see if I can move that out of the way. Okay. Clearly, when I took this picture, the focus is not really crisp right in the front, which is a shame because I wish that that front flower were really strongly in focus. But I have other photos of this same composition that I can probably pull the details from that other photo. But let me just see here. All right. Okay, so let's do an edit on this one. Oh, it's not letting me do it when I expand it. Okay, so let's go to the edit screen and the crop. Okay, so there's some interesting things. I was already fooling around with this a little bit. We can go like so. Again, I won't include this blue sign. That's not, I'll just paint that in as foliage that's out of focus. But look here, you've got this beautiful ray of sunlight coming in from the back, so it's a bit washed out. And then you get into this detailed little spot here, right? Like gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Right? Really, really nice. I love that composition. I love these strong lines that are coming up. I like the cross lines of the leaves rather in the background. I like that this one is kind of laying over the front and then your focus is back here, right? The camera focused on the second stem there. Really cool. Okay, then we can slide this over and pick a whole new composition. Right? With the same photo, I can crop this many different ways. So again, we have these strong lines going in different directions. We have these beautiful blooms. I think I might move this down just a little tiny bit. Let's see what happens. I kind of like this bloom down here. So let's stretch this out a little bit. See how that looks. Gorgeous. Really, really gorgeous. Okay, so that's another option. Then I could come all the way over here, again, with the same composition or the same photo. I think I'm going to crop that out. Again, it would be great if this were in higher focus, but I can paint that in. That's not an issue. It looks like I might have moved a little bit too. But again, really beautiful. You've got these leaves in the background that are kind of blurred. And then these beautiful stalks coming up the center here. So that could be another, I could do a whole series just on these couple of photographs from this particular painting. So I'm just going to stop sharing now. There we are. This is the process. So I take my source photos, then with the cropping and adjusting and twisting and turning, I figure out, oh, I've got cherry blossoms in my hair. That's awesome. So I figure out what sort of composition, how is this going to be oriented? And then I can look at the dimensions of this canvas, right? I can measure this dimension and the vertical dimension and decide on the size of the canvas. Now, let me just go back to a different photo. Here, this one here. This is the one that we did the cropping on earlier. And you can see it's a rectangle, right? It's a long, narrow, horizontal format rectangle. I can measure this distance and I can measure the across distance and extrapolate that into the canvas. Now, I can do a canvas this big, or I can do a canvas really big. And that's the cool part of being an artist, is I get to make those decisions of what scale do I want that particular image to be as a painting? And because I have access to a wood shop and the skills, I can actually construct the canvas myself. So if I want, a canvas that's 13 and a half by 27 and 3/4, you can't go to the store and buy that, right? They don't make that size. They make very standard sizes, 16 by 18, 18 by 20, 24 by 36, like very standard size. So if a composition works really well for an image that's a different dimension, I can make that in the wood shop and stretch the canvas and prepare the canvas, and away I go. Then I transfer my image, keeping in mind the composition that I've created in the photo, in the cropping and that kind of thing that I've done. So that's a bit of the process. I get excited about these flowers from the photography stage. And then from the photography stage, I do the cropping. I figure out what feels exciting for me in the image. And then that moves to the size of canvas, preparing the canvas, and then transferring the image onto that canvas and starting a new painting, bringing that painting to life with that image that I've taken with my camera. So that's part of my process. And it's not very scientific. There are some things that I consult. One of them is called the golden number. And this is a number that was discovered back in like Greek and Roman times by a fellow by the name of Euclid. And Euclid stumbled on this number, or figured out this number, that has been used through art and architecture ever since, as being the ratio that creates balance and harmony in structures, in paintings, in spaces, right? That if you recognize this number, that it helps to create compositions that really work. And for me, I don't always rely on it, because there's sometimes the image calls for something different. And that's my artistic license. I get to decide how I want that to look. But when I use the golden number, it gives me a framework to establish where I'm going to place my focal point. The focal point of a canvas is what draws you in. It's the thing that's the important story, the important conversation that's happening in that photograph that you're trying to convey as an artist, that I want the viewer to really get a sense of this particular place on the canvas. And the rest will be sort of the supporting cast and crew, right? The leaves that come underneath, the light shining through. It gives you a context of the space, but there will be a focal point. There will be a point to the painting that will draw the viewer in. So keeping that in mind as I'm composing these images of how do I actually want to compose this so that it creates a really compelling image to draw you in and have you spend a little bit more time with the photo and linger with the details. So that's my process. Once the image is transferred to canvas, then I'm kind of, I'm mixing it up a little bit. I used to do a full grayscale painting underneath that would give me all the lights and darks and shadows and all that kind of thing. I'm moving away from that and going to color. But what I'm doing is putting thin washes of color as an underpainting and then building color on top. So it means that I basically paint the painting 2 or 3 times, touching up, bringing out the radiance, illuminating some areas a little bit differently, and working in the color layers versus in the gray tone. And it's just a technique difference and takes a bit of time, but I really enjoy the luminosity of oil paint and how layering oil paint together gives you this radiance. It's like, it's just so delicious. And I'm able to capture those beautiful flowers and blooms in that oil paint, which is really, really exciting. So yeah. And I'm hearing from people that my artwork, they really can feel what I'm conveying, that it's lifting their spirits. They feel brighter. It's cheerful. They're enjoying the images. So obviously my efforts to bring the composition, the color, the subject matter, all of those things together is conveying the correct message. So that feels really good to be actually delivering what I'm intending. So I hope this video has helped you understand a bit more of my process. And if you have any questions, by all means, you can message me. I will make sure there's a way for you to do that with this video. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining me. All right, bye.